Max Verstappen is the reigning Formula 1 world champion and overwhelming favourite to win the title in 2022. But being really good isn't enough, and Max made sure that Red Bull knows this by lashing out about the current car. In today's video, we're going to dive into why the current Red Bull upgrades can't cure Verstappen's main limitation. But first, do you think the RB18 is a good car, or is Verstappen able to get more out of the car? Let us know your thoughts on the RB18 in the comments below. So, as said, being really good isn't enough for the reigning world champion. If you know me, first of all, I will not be laying on the beach, he said of his August plans, when asked if his comfortable championship position made it easier to relax. And second of all, I don't really care about the points gap, because for me, it's all about trying to be perfect every single weekend. It's not something that once you have that gap that you start to relax. I still want to win more races, and that's what we'll try to do as a team. Verstappen is not a robot, but he is displaying the mentality that made Lewis Hamilton such an incredibly formidable force during Mercedes' dominance. Nothing is ever satisfactory. Nothing should be taken for granted. Things can always be improved. Verstappen has been the most dissatisfied this year. Red Bull has flaws, and Verstappen has very little patience, especially when he's driving. Flickers of poor reliability, an overweight car, and the occasional lack of qualifying pace have all enraged Verstappen at some point and remain unresolved issues for Red Bull. One restriction that Verstappen has had to learn to live with is an underlying feature of the RB18 that no upgrades can fix. The 2022 cars, paired with the first generation of Pirelli tyres designed for 18-inch wheels, have resulted in understeery, lazy cars in general. Verstappen was particularly affected by this at Monaco and Azerbaijan, which had slower corners. It's no surprise that Verstappen lost 2 of his 3 qualifying races this season to teammate Sergio Perez on those 2 tracks. Street circuits are a bit tougher for me, Verstappen admits. The normal tracks are a bit better for it. A car's performance is limited by a more benign front end. Verstappen can still get to that limit, but so can a poorer driver, or at least get closer than if the car is more nervous. Verstappen flexes his muscles the greatest when he can show incredible control of the car with more front-end grip. The more easily the rear of the car can be turned, the more a driver can influence the rotation. It's a delicate balance, and Verstappen is among a select group of drivers who can consistently assess it. So Red Bull and Verstappen have discussed making the RB18 look more positive. While the car's development path has been somewhat successful, resulting in Verstappen establishing a more consistent and comfortable edge over Perez, the efforts have been hampered to some extent by other reasons. The current generation of F1 cars does not easily merge with the style that Verstappen was able to exploit to such effect with the previous regulation cycle's high-rate Red Bulls. One explanation is the pressure center in these cars. The center of pressure is effectively the average of the downforce created at the front and rear of the car, which is an oversimplification. The emphasis on ground effect aerodynamics on the 2022 cars, as well as how hard the floors work, means that the center of pressure is further back than before. The cars generate more downforce in the rear than in the front, resulting in an aero balance that naturally promotes understeer, which is difficult to manipulate, especially at low speeds. However, it's not impossible. Charles Leclerc, Verstappen's main rival in 2022, has spoken about his Ferrari having an unstable rear from the start of the season. Leclerc, like Verstappen, thrives in this environment. Red Bull has also made strides in this regard. It has been a bit better, but I think the main limitation for that is also the tyres, says Verstappen, bringing us to the other key factor. They had to bring a tyre, and they didn't really know how much downforce we would have or the weight of the car. It's very hard for Pirelli to have had a full idea of what to expect or what they were going to get. Already from the get-go, when we were in Bahrain, you could just feel like all the time when you really wanted to carry a lot of speed in, probably due to the weight of the car and just the structure of the tyre, it gives up a lot mid-corner. It's not ideal, but that's why as a team you have to work around that issue with the car to try and make the car turn a bit better, which on some tracks of course is better, and on some tracks is more of a limitation, just because of the layout. I hope for next year something can be done. Pirelli has discussed developing a stronger front tyre for next year, which, if successful, would naturally reduce the understeer that has plagued the majority of the cars this year. It is building new front and back structures to deal with the realities of the 2022 cars, as well as the predicted gains in downforce for 2023. However, it's not a revolution in tyre design. Pirelli CEO Mario Izzola talks about reducing understeer through construction, not compound. He implies by it that the compound used for the front and back should be the same. Pirelli could do so, but it would be difficult procedure for both the supplier and the teams. Instead, the emphasis is on increasing the tyre's cornering stiffness, which will optimize the footprint, how much of the tyre remains in touch with the track and can be utilized in the middle of a corner. Verstappen has not criticized Pirelli for what it's produced for 2022, and has even stated that the firm had to work with mule cars during its development program, basing it on estimates of how balanced the real cars will be. Verstappen pointed out that understeer is a natural result of the actual 2022 cars producing more downforce at the rear. He likes oversteer, says Izzola. He wants a strong front and he's good to manage the rear. I understand the point. This is the feedback we collected with all the teams in a specific meeting that we do about tyres 3 times per year, and the general feedback was this one. So we're not working on a specific request from one team. That was the general feedback, to have a stronger front tyre. We said, we're doing this. Do you agree? And they said, yeah, this is what we want for next year. Let's see if we achieve the target. Red Bull and Verstappen will have to work around the restriction until then. Verstappen believes the car may still be improved, but he doubts it will be fully addressed this year. Even if it could, he's not confident that cars in 2022 will be noticeably faster. This is not a Red Bull complaint either. Verstappen, like many other drivers, is disappointed that F1's minimum weight limit has increased by over 50 kilograms this year. If we would have had stronger front tyres in qualifying, you can attack a corner a bit better. But on the other hand, the weights really puts a limit on how much you can gain in the slow speed corners, Verstappen says. I think it's also more in the race where we're struggling a lot more with degradation compared to last year. In general, I think we've been doing more stops, which I think particularly comes from the fronts just giving up a lot. For sure, in the race it's a bigger penalty than over 1 lap. That is a common 2022 characteristic. Verstappen believes the Red Bull will suffer a weight penalty until it loses a few pounds. That exists in the race as well. There's free lap time that you're giving away, and there's not an upgrade which can overcome that, he says. However, he has constantly stated that it is a bigger loss in qualifying, because the Red Bull is just heavier in comparison to the competition when the fuel is drained from the tank. This leads us back to Verstappen's assertion that, even with such dominant championship positions, improvements can and must be done. That can include things directly in Red Bull's control, such as weight, or substantially more complex tasks, such as unraveling the physics of the 2022 cars. We still need to bring updates to the car and they need to work, and it's no guarantee, he says. When people say, Red Bull has been really good in the past with upgrades and developing throughout the season, we have to show it again, because if every year you start thinking like that, then normally you fall behind because you think you're that good. You always have to show that we're good at it, and that's what we're trying to do. So far, there hasn't been a dominant weekend for us. In general, in the beginning of the year, I felt like we were the ones racing and trying to beat Ferrari. From my feeling, it's still a bit of chasing. It depends on the tracks, but overall, I felt like they had more dominant weekends than we had. Says the man who leads the championship by 80 points and leads the constructors' standings by 97 points. Nothing is ever good, things can always be improved, and that exactly is the mentality that sums up Max Verstappen. Do you think Red Bull will be able to get the RB18 in a right operating window this season? Let us know in the comments below. That's all for today. We'll see you in the next video.